Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Joanna Nelson, and I'm a Finance Development Specialist with New Mexico Economic Development Department. And this morning, we're hosting our monthly webinar installment from our office in Santa Fe. And today, we're lucky and honored to be joined by two colleagues from the Tourism Department, and that's Susie Lawrence and Andrea Lawrence. And they're going to be speaking about some of their funding programs. And I'd just like to remind everyone that this webinar is being recorded, so we will post the recording on our YouTube channel. And we also will send out a PDF to everyone that is registered and has done that beforehand. And please ask as many questions as you like. You can type those questions in the right hand of your screen, right side of your screen. You should see a questions bar. Just pull that down and type your questions, and we'll take those at the end of the session. And before we get started, I did want to give a little bit of background about the finance team with the New Mexico Economic Development Department. We are a sub-team within the department, and we basically are focused on providing support to communities and businesses that are seeking financing and money to complete ED projects, economic development projects. So we do manage this list of programs, and that includes the Local Economic Development Act, that's LEDA, Fund It, New Markets Tax Credits, our New Mexico Credit Enhancement Program, our Rural Efficient Business Program, and the newly formed Opportunity Zones. And in addition to those programs that we manage, as I mentioned, we provide support and services to communities and businesses that are having challenges and wanting to navigate the financing environment. So we do provide financial analysis, consultations, tax incentive analysis, and provide a lot of connecting resources to communities and businesses. So all of our services are free. Feel free to reach out to us. And this webinar series was started as a part of our Fund It initiative and our Fund It group. Fund It is an informal group of partners, funding partners that have funding sources. So Tourism Department, for example, is a part of Fund It. And what that group does is we connect projects to funding, and we connect the funders to the projects. So communities are able to submit projects that involve economic development and infrastructure to the group, and they are able to receive feedback and experience firsthand knowledge and direct connection to those funding programs in order to fund their project and receive basically a hand-holding throughout the process as they navigate different funding sources to figure out how to fund their projects. And eligible projects include business development, community development, infrastructure development, housing, and downtown revitalization. And in addition to the meetings that we host quarterly, we do provide some resources that communities can access. We have created this resource map that we're really excited about, and you can go online. These links will be live in the PDF that's sent out, but you can basically filter through the different resources to find what funding sources that are eligible for your needs. So, for example, if you can see this image here, you can say, okay, my project has community development, I'm a rural community, and then you can narrow that down and say, okay, here's an example of what fund is available. So this RCAC community facility loan, you could click on that and then be directed to their website. So we're really excited about this. This is version 1.0, so we still are in the process of editing this. But as you know, with economic development and infrastructure projects, there's a lot of different components. You might have a marketing tourism piece. You might have transportation, business, water, all of these different needs that are going into a project. So hopefully this tool can help you narrow down the funding sources that are available. And without any more delay, I want to welcome Susie and Andrea and let them get started.
Thanks, Joanna. Hi, everyone. My name is Susie Lawrence. I'm with the New Mexico Tourism Department, and I work with tourism development here. I wanted to give an overview of tourism development and our role within the tourism industry within the state of New Mexico, and then move into a funding opportunity that we have here within our division to assist in entities looking to create, develop, and sustain tourism infrastructure. So a little bit of background on myself. I've been with the tourism department for a little over 3 years now and moved into this role in 2016. We were really excited about the opportunity to collaborate with partners to help fund and support the development efforts of tourism infrastructure throughout the state of New Mexico. Some of the other states that we work with while developing our programming would be Oregon as well as South Carolina. They have great programs where they go and work with constituents throughout the state in building local capacity to assist in those processes and to ensure that as we're moving forward with scopes of work, they're relevant and actually have the ability to, stimulate local economies, because that's really what it's all about. We want to put in infrastructure that can really revitalize communities and that are resource-based. So again, ensuring that we are being mindful and that we are funding projects that are sustainable and have the ability to really showcase the natural assets of the communities. In 2016, we put a call out for shovel-ready scopes of work is kind of what we called them. And after that process, we realized that the need for our stakeholders was not just a huge check at the end of the day, but really someone who was able to go out into communities and work with constituents to really develop these ideas. A lot of what we do within tourism development would be kind of project concept meetings as well as stakeholder meetings. We help communities kind of take a look and comb through master plans and comprehensive plans that have already been agreed upon by the communities to help determine feasible project ideas and ideas that really help elevate the overall goals and desires of the community to kind of achieve where they want to go and what they're trying to do for the long term. Through that, we created a program called the Rural Pathway Project, and the Rural Pathway Project is just that. It's one individual and one pot of money that is fully devoted to going out and working with our communities. Just to offer a bit of context, when you think about tourism and you think about what that means for your community, we like to think of tourism with two strong components: destination, image, and branding. That would be your promotional and advertising material and strategies, but also utilization of resources and competencies. So that's kind of that partnership building, that relationship building, where we go out and we bring all these industries together to assist and kind of comprehensive plans for the communities. It's definitely a process and it does take time, but it's something that we do offer and that we do see kind of long-term ROI opportunities for that kind of approach, as opposed to just, throwing out money for some signage or maybe a visitor center. What we're really trying to do is take that, 360-degree view of the community. What are your public transport opportunities? What's your emergency communication management like? You may have some great outdoor resources, but that asset may be protected under environmental preservation policies. So we can't really market that as kind of an outdoor asset. So how do you get around that, and how do you kind of move through that bureaucratic red tape to get done what you need to get done in a way that makes sense for your communities and that makes sense for your long-term vision? The purpose of our division is to develop and implement those attractive and sustainable initiatives for the purpose of supporting diverse and resilient economies throughout New Mexico. So I want everybody to be aware that tourism is the fastest growing industry in our state and will be top 3 industry by 2022. What we're trying to do in our office is realize how we can ride that wave in a way that really supports our communities and sets them up for success. And that's what the Tourism Development Division is all about. We work really closely with EDOs to help achieve their goals. Tourism components are usually strong initiatives within any master or comprehensive plans. And what we can do here is we can work with those community leaders, we can work with those stakeholders to make those goals a reality, or tweak those goals to make the potential return on that investment even greater for those communities. So as I mentioned, the program specific to this kind of initiative is the Rural Pathway Project. And what we do is we assist stakeholders within our state in developing profitable tourism products by providing necessary tools, resources, and support. So essentially what we're aiming to do for rural communities specifically is building infrastructure to create the demand for tourism. When I say tourism infrastructure, that can really mean a whole plethora of opportunities, so long as we're really focusing on increasing tourism into the communities. Everything from signage strategies, everything from management strategies, everything from erecting museums to working on visitor centers to actually improving infrastructure of billboards and signage and things of that nature. What we're trying to do with the New Mexico True brand is really create a high level of what am I trying to say? A high level of expectation, high level of expectation when they come into our state, and we want to ensure that our communities meet those levels of expectation. So New Mexico True brand, again, kind of pushing outside New Mexico, bringing the visitor in, and through tourism development, ensuring that our communities are able to meet the visitor where they are and meet those levels of expectation. So I wanted to do a brief case study about the Rural Pathway Project and give you kind of an understanding of what the program is, specifically through the project that we're doing right now in Cuba, New Mexico. So again, when you think of tourism product, try to think much bigger and broader. What we try to do is identify our impact areas and then create vision for each of those impact areas. So imagine a potential visitor sitting in Rhode Island, and they are intrigued by the New Mexico True brand, and their awareness increases through the branding, and now they may potentially plan a vacation here. What tourism development tries to do and what the Rural Pathway Project tries to do is frame that experience from when they're sitting in their homes in Rhode Island to coming into the Sunport, to going to their destinations within New Mexico, going back to the Sunport, going back to Rhode Island, and then following up after their experience here, all for the purpose of potentially increasing return rate. We know that people view New Mexico as a bucket list item. You come once and you never really need to come again. You see Santa Fe, you get it. No real need to come back. And what we're trying to do is alter that. We want people to come to our state and visit our communities and find that, you can't do it all in one trip. You need to come back again and again and again to truly take advantage of what New Mexico has to offer. So in order to do that, we have to think much more broadly. Primarily, we think a lot about public transport, as I mentioned, so transportation opportunities. It's really awesome to build something really fantastic in a rural community, but if there's no way for the visitor to get there, then we definitely haven't done our job in terms of long-term planning. So what we do, kind of stage one in Rural Pathway, the Rural Pathway Project, is identify those impact areas, and that's identified by that steering committee of about 5 to 7 members who really commit to seeing this project forward. So some of the examples of an impact area: education, marketing, communications, environmental preservation, transportation, those world-class experiences, and then long-term economic impact. Again, these are examples of those higher level impact areas. And what we do is then we break those down and determine kind of what all that means. So what you're seeing on your screen now, this is an example of kind of a brain dump of getting all of these elements out and getting, you know, kind of a baseline so that we can move forward and tighten up these plans. So again, moving through the row, if you think of an upside, or I'm sorry, a right side up V where it's wide and then it comes back small, that's kind of where we are. Whereas this is the much larger vision, right? And then we're trying to tighten that up as we move forward. So we are always goal oriented. We always make sure that we have our KPIs so that everything can be measured and we have benchmarks for success. It's not really our purpose to create a vision for the community or create a mission for the community, but we do kind of pull in, if those documents are already created, we'll pull those in and we'll make sure that what we're doing is aligned with the vision and aligned with the mission of the community, but definitely goal oriented. So for this example, increase the economic impact of outdoor recreation assets through sustainable development. So a little bit of background, what Cuba was really focused on is the opportunity to become an outdoor recreation destination. They have the Continental Divide Trail running right through their community. They're a very active community with local organizations that are committed to outdoor recreation education for students and for community members alike. They have a great program called Step Into Cuba. And so a lot of great assets that are already out there and already working towards this kind of larger vision. And so we thought it was a great opportunity to partner with them to pilot some of our outdoor rec ideas and to really see if not only can we take advantage of the Continental Divide Trail and their closeness to it and their identity as a trail town, but also with the Continental Divide Trail Coalition and what the coalition is trying to do to assist these identified gateway communities, the toolkits and everything that they have. So it was just kind of a perfect storm to really get in there and figure out what a comprehensive outdoor recreation destination would look like here in the state. So what we do then is we take those impact areas and we create vision, outcome, and priority strategies. So as you saw, we have a nice handful there of potential impact areas. What we do with our group that is open to the public, so we can get anywhere from 10 to 50 people in a room, is we encourage people to identify what impact area moves them the most. What are they most interested in? What speaks to them? You know, perhaps the example that we have is education. So education may be really important to a handful of people in the room, and they are very committed to this. They understand it, and they can really identify what these projects need to be so that they can move the education component forward. Again, we may have some great people who are interested in transit, some awesome people who just want to build the experience. So allowing those community members to identify their kind of passion project, right, through kind of a strategic method, whereas we have already identified what our primary impact areas are. So those groups will work together throughout the remainder of the Rural Pathway project. They create a 15-year vision, 5-year outcomes, and priority strategies. The vision, as you know, is kind of that high level, where we want to go, what we're trying to do, what's the pie in the sky, what is our future statement for this impact area. 5-year outcome, those are the tangible, measurable KPIs that you want at the end of this Rural Pathway project. And then, of course, how do you reach those priority, or how do you reach those 5-year outcomes? By creating those priority strategies. So when you look at this page right here on your desktop, I want you to envision an arrow, whereas we start at the bottom from priority strategies and go up to 5-year outcome and go back to 15-year vision, and then it goes right back the same way, right? So everything is connected. We understand the vision, we know what our outcomes are to achieve that vision, and then we have our priority strategies to achieve those outcomes. Those priority strategies right there, that is what is actually listed on your scope of work. Once we have community members identifying what the priority strategies are to get the outcome, to get the vision, then we actually have some stuff that we can put pen to paper to, and we can actually build out scopes of work that take care of those priority strategies. So just an example of what Cuba worked on, identifying really that their impact areas were going to be local community development, industry diversity and leadership. So some of the things that they really needed to do was an audit of local tourism stakeholders to increase the employee pool. This is something that we do just in tourism development in general. We need everybody to understand that they have a stake within their local economies or local communities kind of economic ring, right? So everybody contributes to that, whether they believe they do or they don't. And tourism is 9 times out of 10 a strong piece of that comprehensive economic development plan. Therefore, everyone does have skin in the game in terms of tourism development. If you have a very strong focus on recreation, all your bike shops, all of your tour operators, if you're doing anything with angling, if you're even doing anything environmentally in terms of sustainability efforts, all of that needs to coincide with your tourism initiatives to make sure that everything's being done sustainably. I've talked a few times about transportation. So of course, all your public transport, all of your rental car opportunities, if you're in proximity to an airport, all of those people should understand that they are a part of this plan and that this is a larger kind of vision, a larger approach to economic stimulation within their communities. And then another thing that they tried to work on, creation and distribution of industry business toolkits. And so that's something that we do often, providing these kinds of quote unquote toolkits for community members. It's important to remember that a lot of these resources already exist. And so a great outcome of the Rural Pathway Project, not only, getting a bunch of great infrastructure put in for your community, but you also learn about what else is out there and that what you can take advantage of without having, to go to the state, without having to go through these long workshops. And so identifying EDD as a great resource, as well as local business incubators, that's just a way to kind of capture what's already been done and just make sure it's distributed to your community in a way that makes sense for them. Sometimes it's one big meeting to just review all of it, and sometimes we need to go door to door and get in touch with Main Street or merchants associations. They also identified marketing and promotion as a huge component for their local community development. It's important to remember that this specific program cannot go towards advertising and promotion, but we absolutely can hack out the start of that strategy through this program. A few things that they wanted to do in Cuba was make Cuba, New Mexico true. So figuring out how to utilize those toolkits and how they can start perhaps advocating for lodger's tax to be expended towards the New Mexico True campaign. Implement a visitor information system. So a community as small as Cuba doesn't have a publicly owned visitor center, and that's something that a lot of our uber rural communities face. And so figuring out how we can get creative and we can do things like kiosks or we can have ambassadors and private businesses to kind of create an information system for the visitor to kind of make up for not having that brick and mortar visitor center in the community. The second impact area for Cuba, outdoor recreation destination development. So that's all the fun and sexy stuff, right? So developing that visitor experience as well as a community event. So this was created in November. That's what you're seeing. The community's really tightened up and made a lot of these initiatives a bit more robust. So visitor experience, that's going to be about the trail development, the signature event opportunities. One of the things that came out of this is realizing that there were actually already some really great niche outdoor recreation events going on in the area. And what we needed to do then was just capitalize on the visitors that were already going to these events and how do we pull them into Cuba. Another thing that they're looking at is a mountain bike sharing program. We have some communities around the state who have done some great pilot projects. And so getting Cuba to partner with communities like Ruidoso to figure out how they're doing those kind of complex systems and how that would work specifically for Cuba. So So what we do here, taking those priority strategies and getting them down on paper, all of those bullets that you saw underneath those impact areas, what we do then is we take them and we kind of dump them into a product model. For anybody who's done any kind of product development, you understand what this is. This is a model, a very high-level model, just to make sure that whatever you're trying to piece together, you've really identified every single angle. So a lot of times people may look at this and say, this isn't really relevant to what we're trying to do. But again, it's important to remember that what we are doing is we are really creating the community to be a product, to be enjoyed and to be marketed and to be used again and again and again. And of course, making sure that all of that is done in sustainable ways that honor the environment and ensure that the carrying capacity of the community is not overloaded. But what we do here is just this great exercise where we just make sure that we've identified every segment of whatever bullet we have. Sure, every once in a while something may not be applicable, but again, this is just making sure that our community members who are planning are being as comprehensive as possible. And then, of course, the scope of work template. So as I mentioned before, all those priority strategies are going to be fleshed out on the product model. That product model is going to make people really start thinking about what a comprehensive scope of work looks like and what that feels like. The scope of work, as you can see here, is a very simple template. I just want to know what you're going to do, who's going to do it, when it's going to be done, and how much it's going to cost. There's a narrative component that goes to this that kind of helps us ensure that we're doing things that have longevity and that we do things that really have KPIs that contribute to the overall mission of the community. But this is a relatively simple template to fill out. And again, what I would do is just go line by line, making sure that everything on this scope of work is eligible, and this is what you submit back to the department to receive up to $50,000 in matching grant funding to complete your scopes. So one of the things that I've really been, kind of taking a look at while evaluating this project or this whole program, the World Pathway Project, what works and what doesn't. And we have some really awesome opportunities lined up for FY20, but we've done some really neat things with the World Pathway Project and kind of looking at tourism development through this lens. So one of the huge wins that we have is getting lodgers tax allocation to the Rural Pathway Project implementation funding. And so, as most of you probably know, and some of you may not, most communities in New Mexico opt in to collect lodgers tax. Lodgers tax needs to be dispersed on pretty much all things tourism related. You do have some constraints where some funding needs to go towards marketing and promotion. Those percentages are decided based on the size of your community. But then you do have a nice little pool of funds that can be allocated towards things like tourism development, convention center, visitor center maintenance, and things like that. So anytime that we can take our development planning and go in front of a council and get lodgers funds allocated towards this kind of planning is always a win. We can also get really creative in terms of financial structures, using lodgers tax to match USDA funding and things of that nature, and really pumping up that pot of funding. Strategic partnerships with Forest Service to revisit closed trails and advance restoration and planning projects. So again, this you may have similar situations in your community where you have a really awesome tourism asset, kind of what I was talking about earlier, but there are some policies and some restrictions around that tourism asset that make it difficult. You can't, you're not getting your fees from the permitting, you're not getting, the tax that you're supposed to, that's supposed to go back into the community for kind of like maybe off-roading or things like that. And so what we do is we kind of help cut through that bureaucratic red tape a little bit and kind of connect those dots and strengthen those relationships so that communities are getting the monies that should be guaranteed to them and that those monies are being utilized in a correct way. So a big win for us is if we can do that for a community who really sees a trail or something of that nature as a huge asset that they haven't been able to really capitalize on. Being able to have that asset open and maintained in a way that's sustainable and makes sense for the community is a big win. The other example that I have is kind of what we're doing up in Espanola and some of the neat things that we've been able to accomplish with the idea of a lowrider museum up there. So when you think of a tourism asset, you really think, I know I did, you think of kind of this freestanding thing that can potentially increase visitors to the community. It's great, it's a really feel-good thing, but it can't really prove conversion and returns for the community. What we've been able to do in Espanola while developing this lowrider museum is figuring out how this can be a greater asset to the community. And through our planning and the great partnerships that those members of the coalition have built, what we've been able to do is partner with the county to have the lowrider museum as an anchor for a large-scale economic development project in that community. So the Lowrider Museum is really going to be the anchor tenant for a large-scale project that's going to have things like maker spaces, retail opportunities, community development classes for the community, and things of that nature. And so how can you advance your economic development ideas leveraging this wave of tourism influx that I talked about earlier? And the Espanola Lowrider Museum is a great example of that. They've also done things like creating STEAM and STEM labs as an educational component to that. So when you think of lowrider building, the engineering that goes into that, as well as the amazing artistic talent. And so figuring out how we can partner with colleges so that students can utilize the museum and partner with the museum to advance their studies and really have some great real life experience. And then also by creating that kind of content and building those kinds of partnerships, that leads to many open doors for potential funding. So being able to partner with the Ford Foundation, now that there's a STEM education program attached to this kind of tourism asset, you can just really start, pushing down these kinds of development plans into various veins of funding opportunity that overall, at the end of the day, what we're always looking to do is maintain or enhance the quality of life for the constituents, but as well, really just stimulating local economies and, acting as a responsible steward in the community. We want to make sure that we're giving back through all of these programs as well. So what we see moving forward with this program, we'll do a rollout in FY20. We have some really great ideas. As it stands now, this is a matching grant opportunity. So what you do is you give me a call with your project concept, and usually I'll come out and do a site visit, and we'll talk a little bit about it and see some great points of opportunity for moving forward. The steering committee applies to be in the program, and then I go out and I work with you 20, 30, 40 hours, 2 years sometimes, as long as it takes to make sure that we're building that local capacity and we're getting those development plans where they need to be for this kind of project, as well as securing funding. We do require that there is a one-to-one cash match. It's on a reimbursement-based model, and that cash match, of course, is matched by dollars through the tourism department with up to $50,000. Typically, we've been really looking at larger projects, so we really want those high dollar projects, but what we've identified is that there is a need for those kind of small wins, that low hanging fruit within communities. And so really rethinking how we can be a steward to not only people with great large scale regional projects, but also our small communities that just need an information kiosk or just need some kind of touch point for the visitor. So moving forward, short-term, continued relationships with economic development and other agencies to determine metric models for quality of life increases. I'm sure that everybody's heard of these kind of metrics for quality of life. Those are great. That's what we're using now, but we really want to tighten those up a bit. Complete scope of work execution, so making sure that when we get those scopes of work, every line item is funded, even if it's a line item that can't be funded through this program, making sure that we are working with other programs and other partners to get every line item executed. Many of workshops and trainings to explain product development, and that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. What can we do to assist those who have large projects but also small projects? And so we're thinking kind of a menu of workshop options where if you're just looking to do kind of a visitor touch point, like an informational kiosk or something like that, you're still partnering with us, you're still getting what you need to make sure that you're able to maintain and sustain this, but you're not needing to sit through 20 plus hours of training, and your ask at the end of the day is not huge, but we're still able to help communities get that stuff done. Long-term is a approved state tourism plan. This is something that we're working on, comprehensively within tourism development. We want a 10 to 20-year tourism infrastructure plan. Increase community livability metrics that are relevant to the populations we're serving. And so a lot of times we'll hear things thrown around like property values versus housing sales. So increased property value, as you all know, can be good and can be bad. So some of the things that we're told to look at is increased housing sales. But again, if you're in a community like Roy, New Mexico, there aren't very many houses to sell there. So just ensuring that our metrics are relevant to whatever community we're serving. And then a budget increase for us. This budget increase is not coming from the Roundhouse. This would be us and our boots on the ground efforts as we get creative in leveraging funding and making sure that lodgers taxes are expended correctly, that communities are getting those monies coming in from relevant fees and permitting that we talked about earlier. So again, not an ask from the Roundhouse. This is us figuring out how to leverage the monies we already have to have a much larger return. The Rural Pathway Project application process is really simple. I touched on it lightly just a minute ago. Apply, attend, and build. That's all you need to do. Apply by identifying tourism-related project concepts that really have the ability to diversify your local revenue streams. You do need a 5 to 7 person steering committee. These workshops are open to the public, so anyone is invited to join. However, we do need to have a core group of people who are committed to seeing the project to fruition. Your steering committee can be absolutely anyone and everyone who just has heart or knowledge of what it is you're trying to do. If you're really interested in creating mountain biking trails, I would encourage that you would have someone from the Department of Health, as well as your local biking enthusiasts, as well as a tourism representative, as well as somebody from the Park Service. So just a really great, robust, and eclectic group of people who have a great pool of knowledge for getting these kinds of ideas, not just putting them on paper, but actually having them happen. So I'm sure there's many questions about who actually receives the funding. So just make sure that one person is a DFA approved entity. So it can be anyone representing a 501c3, county, municipality, or tribal government. So when you come to the funding level, you do have to have identified an eligible fiscal agent, but that's just one person and one entity. The steering committee and anyone else who's interested in joining can be absolutely anyone who just is positive about the idea. You submit the project concept form at newmexico.org. It's a really simple questionnaire, and that just kind of helps to get the conversation going. When approved, you complete the formalized application. It's just a bit more in depth and gives us some more context for what it is you're looking to do. And then you need to schedule your workshops. All workshops are done within the communities. So we come to you guys and you set the agenda 7 days a week, as early as 8 a.m. running to as late as 8 p.m. Throughout that process, we get that development plan up and running. So by the end of it, you have a plan, a piece of paper that you can give to council members, that you can submit back to the department, that you can use for other grant opportunities, and that does include that comprehensive scope of work. You give all of that back to us, and that's the collateral reused for funding up to $50,000 for project implementation. And just remember, it's a reimbursed-based funding opportunity that does require a one-to-one cash match, and all allocated funding must be expended within the same fiscal year that the agreement is executed. So I'm going to pass it on over to Andrea. She's going to talk more about the marketing and promotional opportunities that we have. If you think of the tourism department, really think of us as a full model, a one-stop shop, whereas you can start with tourism development to help build the product, move it through to co-op and True Certified to promote the product, and then Clean and Beautiful has opportunities to help sustain the product.
Thanks, Susie. It is always a pleasure to hear you talk about what you do. It is just amazing how in 2 short years the program has become so incredibly broad in its scope and scale. And I know from constantly walking by your office and seeing your sign that says, "I'm out in Cuba, I'm out in Clayton, I'm out and around the state," and it's just great to see so much traction and that your program is getting so much use. So another really popular program that we have here at the New Mexico Tourism Department is the Cooperative Marketing Grant Program, and that also gets a ton of use. It is a very long-standing program, and we were honored to win a national award last year through the the U.S. Travel Association at the ESTO conference last summer. We really have evolved the program in the last few years and have taken a very results-oriented approach to this collaborative advertising that we have. And sorry, bear with me while I change slides. Okay. So I'm going to go through this program, and then just so you know, the other program I'll talk about today is New Mexico True Certified, which is our 100% Made in New Mexico program. And these are both pretty big, and I'm happy to answer questions or talk to people offline. If I leave you with lingering thoughts and ideas, I'm also glad to hear those. So to start, what we always want to do here at the department is think in the mind of the traveler. It's very important that we are coming at things as our audience would come at them, so that we know that we're providing the right thing in the right place at the right time. And so we do that from the decision-making process model that you see in front of you from start to finish. And at the state level, we focus on making people aware of New Mexico. We inspire them with arresting images that display or dispel myths about New Mexico. So oftentimes, because we know from focus group and research that we've done, we know that people have misperceptions of what New Mexico is. They think we're a barren desert, that there's nothing to do here. And so the things we focus on are showing them what they may not expect to find: snow, water, mountains, and we include sight doing, implanting the story of individuals, couples or families that are engaged while on their vacation. We're showing more than just pretty landscapes and sunsets, but it is actually people get to picture themselves and what they would do while they're here. So moving into consideration, now that they have New Mexico on the brain, they start following our social feeds, doing internet research, and honing in on locations, activities, and events, along with potential dates that they could visit. That is followed by commitment. So the activation portion of this model, we look really to our local partners and our destination marketing organizations, our chambers of commerce in smaller rural communities, whatever entity is about actually activating that traveler to commit to an event, to buy a ticket, to bring themselves, their families here for this experience. Once they embark on that experience, obviously we're all taking tons of photographs and we're sharing those photographs. And I'll touch on this more when I get to New Mexico True Certified later, but that is that they are also making purchases that are reminding them of those travels that they had, and they're reliving this experience, they're talking about it. And so again, this is a full cycle, and as Susie said, one thing leads to another, and it continues to build on those things and starts all over again. So I'd like to share some of our partner creative. These are print publications, display, and advertorials. Through the cooperative marketing program, destination, attraction, and event partners have the opportunity through a vast selection of media venue options that include print, digital, and out of home, and I'll go through some examples from each of those. They can also play this important role in inspiration, consideration, and activation stages of that design model. So what you see here in front of you is a print ad and then an advertorial section through Albuquerque, the magazine, that talks about what you can do within 4, 3, 2, 1 hours of New Mexico's largest city. And so this isn't just about the core areas and somebody's coming into Sunport. We want them to see every inch of Albuquerque, and then we want them to go beyond and experience more of New Mexico, to Susie's point, to make sure that they know how much is here, and they don't just write us off after one visit, but they continue to return over and over again. Here's another example of advertorial with some of our partners. So important to say, often someone might come to me and say, hey, I see that that Taos is getting a lot of love in this magazine. How do I get that? Well, in this particular case, it is a pay-to-play, and I'll talk a little bit more about the grant itself, but it is a one-to-one matching grant program in which the partner provides cash and the New Mexico Tourism Department matches that. Here are examples of digital placements, and of course digital placements are evolving all of the time and also have to be optimized for all different devices, but for the most part, the lion's share of people are seeing things on a smartphone, and we have just really smart media buyers and folks that we work with, media vendor partners, who are advising us all the time about the best way to make sure our videos are seen through to completion, to make sure that we are featuring those Explore More buttons in a place where they will get clicked on, that they're, again, activating that action. We also have a content distribution, and so these, again, are partner inputs through assets and talking points, and then as part of this program in particular, there are professional writers who are putting this into proven templates or models that say, we know that bucket list or numbered list or how to most see, must see kind of things are actually moving people from consideration into activation, and that we are converting travelers, that they are coming here, that they're spending their dollars. Here are some billboards. So again, this is all part of our, what we call our media menu plan, and that is that wide variety of options that people have to buy into, and this would include some in-state and local, so New Mexico and El Paso billboard opportunities. And then it's a little bit hard to see, but in that lower left-hand corner, what you have there is the Silver City image is New Mexico True in an airport out of home, which we're pretty well known for now. These big dioramas, the wall wraps, the very large imagery, arresting imagery, again, that people have are facing magnetic, gorgeous pictures of things that are surprising to them because it busts their myths about New Mexico. And then we also have found that these, on the right-hand side, these Boingo placements, which precede free Wi-Fi in places like airports and are require full views of an ad before people can access that are working really hard for us. We, as I mentioned, have a content creation program, and so we do that with still images and video production. I'm just going to take 30 seconds to show you and encourage you then to visit our YouTube channel on Visit New Mexico, because there are just incredible video assets there. And to Susie's point, when a community comes and says, you know, how do I be New Mexico true, one of the first things that we can do is look through our assets, and those are listed by region, by location on our industry partners website. And that URL, just newmexico.org/industry, is just an incredible wealth of information. And there, Cuba can say, oh, did New Mexico True TV ever come and film in my area? Or, you know, these ads in effect are located there. So without further ado, I'm going to show you this, but I also just want to invite you to see the others, because I think that they all have really different personalities. And I hope this has sound, but then again, it might not. Okay, you're just going to see it. It is, I could narrate. So these are assets of Tucumcari, the mural painter who has done dozens of murals around, showing again that Conscious Lake shot, people doing things, having fun experiences in the destination. You really have to look this up and hear the video, or the audio rather, to get the full effect. Note to self, next time test sound. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to, okay, still photography again. I think I've talked about that. So, you know, again, we have images here. That top left is actually from a Silver City shoot, but as you can see, it's City of Rocks, which is pretty close to Deming. And so we really encourage partners to collaborate and leverage their entire areas. We know that when people plan a trip to New Mexico, they are planning more like an international traveler. And again, this is about seeing things from the mind of the traveler. They're planning these trips farther out in advance, and they are planning to stay a longer period of time and see and do more. And so it's important that we show them that there is enough here for them to do out in and around the area. Part of the cooperative marketing grant program, this part in particular is the flexible funding, and is steeped in its history, which allowed our applying entities, or rather awarded entities, to say, hey, what you're doing is great, and we appreciate New Mexico True that you are blowing out places like Phoenix and Dallas and Chicago, but as Silver City, a lot of our folks are coming from Tucson. We're, for all intents and purposes, equal or closer to Tucson than we are to Albuquerque, and we need some representation there. And so with this flexible part of our grant program, we can also fund these niche placements. You can see here that they are on a streetcar in Tucson. This is incredible trolley wrap. And then some pieces that are also helping Edgewood Cowboy Days reach that particular audience, because our mission and our target audience rather is the venturesome traveler. And so I think that's a lot of when Susie's talking about horror communities and mountain biking and the Continental Divide Trail, these we know are proven to appeal to our target audience, but we also understand that our partners have target audiences that are different, that again are niche, and so we want to provide an opportunity and a venue for them to be able to get their message out in a place and way that it makes the most sense to them. So with that said, there's slide here, this next bit is about results, and this is just from the past Cooperative Marketing Grant fiscal year. So with, and actually we have almost double the number of participants and partners in the current FY19 cycle, and so you can see here that we are doing, one of our strategic planks here at the Tourism Department is to require rigor, and we require that of everyone we work with and ourselves, and so we're making sure that we are tracking these things very closely and that they're providing incredible ROI for us. This is, and I can share this with people later if that's helpful, through Joanna, I'm sure this is the upcoming FY20 Cooperative Marketing Grant timeline, and so if you did read the Albuquerque Journal yesterday or you have heard the date March 5, that has been rescheduled, so we will launch the grant cycle for the coming fiscal year actually on April 9th. That will kick off with a webinar that will be mandatory for any eligible entity that is interested in applying or thinks they want to apply, and then we work with them on consultations, holistic strategic marketing plans. They finalize applications. Those will be due May 6th. So again, launch date April 9th, applications due on May 6th. And then the work isn't nearly done. It's only just beginning. And so we start moving through a lot of work together, again, for partners to provide those inputs and assets and have a voice in everything that goes out to the greater world at large, if you will. And then we have a payment process, etc. So this is a timeline we're working with right now. I want to say that our Tourism Cabinet Secretary Schreier is committed to bringing the best program to partners. And so upon her appointment, we did a full assessment of this program and working to implement those recommendations in phases as quickly as possible, immediately and into the FY20 cycle and moving out into the coming year. And with that, I am going to move forward into New Mexico True Certified. As I mentioned, the New Mexico True when New Mexico True was just 4 years old in 2016, there was a growing clamor from the industry and beyond the industry. And to harness this energy and really respond to people, we specifically from the private sector wanted to make sure that we had a place for people to be New Mexico True. When they came to us and said, you know, I'm committed to this state, I was born and raised here, I've been here, my family's been here for generations, and we are ranching here, we're growing here, we're making things here. And so this 100% Made in New Mexico program was really based on our strong belief in the care, quality, and craftsmanship behind products that are authentically New Mexican. Our strategic goals include providing exposure and growth opportunities for program partners, encouraging New Mexicans to support their neighbors by buying local, reinforcing emotional connections between visitors and New Mexico, and expanding brand recognition. All that's easy to say, but how do we really put it into practice? And so here's how it works. We have a streamlined process through which a potential partner's application flows. And you'll see it there in front of you. You'll see a little screen grab of our application online that is accessible through newmexico.org/industry, and just a few of our partner benefits there. We have videos of partners. I have some testimonials actually at the end of this to share. But basically people say, well, great, you know, I have to do all this. How long is that going to take? And generally it is up to the partner, because aside from a cabinet secretary signature, everything that is in my control and my colleague, Brandy Velarde, who works really hard and is an amazing customer service and advocate for everybody out in the community, we really turn our steps around in 48 hours. And so it often depends on the partner as to when they can get these things back to us, but we work as quickly as possible. So this program, though it just started almost 3 years ago, is 265 partners strong. We have an incredible network. ranging from major manufacturers to cottage industries, and products from native and traditional arts, along with food and beverage, apparel, and skincare items. And you can see a number of them there in front of you, including down there on the lower right-hand side, 20 breweries and 22 wineries. And again, this is just a sample of the 265 partners that are working with us today, and more importantly, are working with each other and sharing ideas and talking about how to further their business in New Mexico and around the country. So, you know, everybody from artists from Albuquerque to Zuni, food purveyors, lots of green chili, lots of bath and body care products, lots of goat's milk soap. There must be lots and lots of goats in New Mexico. And, you know, again, one of the greatest benefits of program participation is access to this community, because these people are really, these entrepreneurs for the most part are movers and makers. They want to be connected to the brand. They want to be part of something that's greater than themselves. And we are really proud and honored to be able to bring them something that does that continues to build pride in New Mexico. Because again, we actually know that is a huge keystone of driving travel to our state. Early on, we engaged Southwestern 505 brand salsas, and that assured us a level of recognition and product market saturation that we could not have otherwise done on our own. And that includes 120,000 distribution points nationwide, including Walmart's and Sam's Club, 48 million impressions. Southwestern 505 is big in the Denver market with Billboards on I-25 and I-70, and even in Rocky Stadium. So that is, again, giving New Mexico True incredible reach in markets that are of value to us, furthering our brand recognition. And every time somebody sees New Mexico True certified, 100% made in New Mexico on a 505 product, when they see that again on a product from a smaller or more local entity business, you can see here local honey, local wine, local chili-infused olive oil, that is creating a connection in the mind of the traveler, in the mind of the buyer in this case. And we do know that travelers who are exposed to New Mexico products will spend more money when they travel here. In addition, they take those products home, they give them away. We make sure they're available in the airport, at the Sunport, and when they're home using them, that's constantly reminding them of their trip, and again, building those future return visits and future stays. So these are examples of co-branding. Gertrude Zachary has been an incredible partner about featuring New Mexico True certified mark emblem on billboards around Albuquerque. I'm sure people have seen them. The right is a screenshot of one of our partners on Amazon, and several of them are. People are using this on Facebook and social media, websites, and then I love this Ernest Thompson. This is a picture, an image from Made in America Day at the White House, and so New Mexico True at the White House was pretty exciting, having a New Mexico True certified partner there. Incredible. Okay, for our part, since 2016, we have placed full-page ads and full-page advertisements in publications you see here, like Edible and New Mexico magazines. We do those with non-specific call-outs, so they're not featuring a partner per se, but something that we know our partners are using as an ingredient in their product, or again, it may have that crossover, not this particular chili image, although this one does cross over to the out of home that you see in the lower right-hand side with that green chili cheeseburger. But also we've featured images of, again, wine, beer taps, raspberries, things that can also translate to a New Mexico True experience. You can bring your family here. You can go out to a farm in Mora or in Corrales and pick raspberries. And we know that those experiences are what people are looking for now, that is more important to them, that they're building memories with their significant others, with their families. So in 2016 through 18, we did these billboards around the state. There are a couple examples here. And that top one is our New Mexico True Certified sweepstakes. This ran last summer. For 10 weeks, it prompted over 15,000 ballot entries. I'll tell you, people were a little skeptical in the beginning that a New Mexico True Certified getaway, essentially, you know, with some ballooning and great food and bike tours, that was actually going to drive New Mexicans to enter, but it absolutely did, to the tune actually of 15,000 ballot entries, but 7,000 people wanted it so much they did it more than one time. So again, I mentioned our key partnerships because they've been of huge value to us. So we've forged several of those mutually beneficial relationships, and they check the box on a lot of our program goals. These include Blake's Whataburger with 75 restaurants statewide, and Albertsons grocery stores. This was in 18 stores throughout the state, so these are made in New Mexico or New Mexico True products sold here. And they recently came back with some very impressive results of 25 to 100+% increases in sales of things like salsa, spices, jams, and coffees that are featured on this table. Another one of our important partners is Stellar, formerly Avila Retail at the Sunport, with 3 retail locations. We're moving next month into our 3rd annual Buy Local campaign, again, making these products available to people as they come and go, not just visitors, but New Mexicans. I know I never leave the state, and I'm sure you don't either, to go visit people without some local products. And so our past runs on average of 1.1 million impressions per month, folks coming through Sunport, and our featured partners are seeing a 40% average year-over-year increase. So we know that this is doing good. These relationships are really working for our partners, and that's what it's all about. Here's some more images of that. Last year we started carrying New Mexico True merchandise because people were asking for it, and so we still have that available. And just leading here into the landing page on our site at newmexico.org. New Mexico True Certified has a microsite. This is where we tell our partner stories, and we feature them in a way that we feel builds kinship and imparts a desire. I know if I can read about somebody who's decided to make their own soap and lotion and deodorant because somebody in their family had a cancer diagnosis and they wanted to stop using chemically produced products, like that makes me want to buy their product. And so building these connections, making it emotional, making it real, making it human, and about somebody, not just a thing. We also have here a place to feature some of the good work that's done at New Mexico Magazine and some videos, New Mexico True Experiences, and you'll see here the Visitor Experiences map, which was just introduced in December, where, again, the idea is showing travelers where they can connect with interesting entrepreneurs, because that increases the value of their experiencing here. They have interactive experiences, and of course, you know, if somebody goes to an alpaca farm, they're rarely going to leave without a little something soft in their pocket. Here's what some of our partners are saying about us. Again, what we're really trying to do here is build connections, make them feel like part of something greater than themselves. Obviously, you know, the underlying is economic development. It is it's supporting your neighbors. It's buying local. It's making the decision to pick up a New Mexico product off of a grocery store shelf or go to that restaurant. Any of these things, you know, it's really, I guess I get a little passionate on my soapbox about this, but I am glad that people see it as being connected to one another, because again, I think the value is in what the partners can offer one another. I am, you know, not an expert in prototypes and getting things to market and securing shelf space. Wherever I can lend a hand, I am happy to facilitate that, but to each other, they can really provide this valuable information. And a little bit about our results in this program between the tourism department and our partners. Over $500,000 invested in the last few years with over 170 million impressions, products selling nationwide, and again, those that important relationship that we have for the Buy Local campaign at Sunport. So here's what you can do and how you can help. If you know of a Made in New Mexico product or an existing partner with an immersive activity, please send them my way or refer them to our website where they can get more information and apply to be part of the program. The next time you're trying to make a decision about what to buy, look for a New Mexico True Certified label and support your neighbors. If you have company, take them to local farmers markets, art markets. A lot of our partners that you'll see on that visitor experience map have coffee cupping, chocolate, winery tours, and tastings. I can attest to the deliciousness of a lot of that. And the next time you're traveling, take some products with you. And of course, look for some goat's milk soap if your skin feels dry these days. Here's my contact information. I'm again available for questions or suggestions. I'm always happy to build partnerships with people and further our shared interests and goals. So, Joanna, I'm going to pass this back to you, and thank you all very much for your attention and your time today.
Great. Thank you so much, Andrea, and thanks, Susie. What a wonderful presentation. It's always really exciting to hear all the work that you all are doing. The tourism department is one of the hardest working departments, I think, that we have in the state, and it was great to see the results of some of your work, because we hear all the time of just the wonderful programs that you all have. We hear that all the time from communities and Main Street areas as well. So let's go ahead and take questions. I see that we have a few. Feel free to type those into that little box on the right-hand screen. And let's see, someone did ask if you can share blanks of the templates, and I think that's referring to the templates that you were sharing, Susie, earlier. It is available.
Yeah, so I'm more than happy to walk anyone through some of the processes that we have and that we offer. I want to be clear that you are not mandated to go through 20 hours of training to receive this kind of technical assistance. So if you have some goals and some things that you're trying to achieve, please reach out to me, and we'll do what we can to get those resources in your hands.
Great. Okay, the next question is there any plan to have a partnership agreement with the El Paso International Airport, such as there is with the Sunport?
Yeah, it's a great question and something we've talked about, because certainly we know that a tremendous number of folks that are coming into New Mexico are coming through El Paso International Airport. And I formerly was with the Las Cruces Convention and Visitor Bureau, and so I know that we have a great relationship with the El Paso CVB, the DML folks there, and they operate those visitor centers in the airport. Our relationship, while we do have a relationship with Sunport and a very good one, the way that we've gotten our local products into those stores was through Avila Retail, specifically, which is now Stellar Partners out of Tampa, Florida, I believe. And so it is definitely something that we are looking into, and we would love to have more local products everywhere, actually in even all of our regional airports around the state, the smaller ones. Those folks, there's plenty of folks coming into Roswell and Santa Fe as well. And gift shops. I think gift shops are another great opportunity. So if anybody has thoughts on or knows buyers, that would be great.
Thanks. There is it's kind of a comment and a question, and it's referring to, let's see, the certification program, and it's mentioning that they are a bit small, too small to be considered in the program, and they're asking, is there an avenue for smaller businesses that do create a product to be able to certify their products as New Mexico True? Do you want to speak a little bit to that, Andrea?
Sure. On our website at newmexico.org/industry, under Work Together, True Certified is where people will find the information, including overview, partner benefits, and there are eligibility requirements. And so people do have to meet certain number of criteria, years in business, maybe a certain amount of sales. Some of that is some of it's to protect the integrity of the program, the other partners who are involved, the work and time of our very small staff. And so if somebody feels like they are not, something is keeping them from being eligible at this time, I just suggest they reach out to me and we can certainly have a conversation about how they can be involved.
Okay, great. Let's see, and there is another question kind of in that same vein. How, I guess it's asking about how the definition of New Mexico True Authentic Experience, how are you defining a New Mexico True Authentic Experience?
So, Susie, you want to start?
Yeah, so we have a lot of research that indicates our primary drivers here to our state. We know why people are coming to New Mexico. We know what they're interested in when they come here. We also know our point of differentiation from our competitive set. We know that our cultural assets and our cultural identities, numerous here throughout the state, are very appealing to travelers. We know that when they come here, they often have a sense of spiritual connection with what New Mexico has to offer. I'm sure that a lot of our listeners would be familiar with that essence as well. So when we're crafting a New Mexico True experience, we're looking at numerous things. We're looking at the black and white data. Is this tourism driver? Is this a reason why people would come to our state and identify with our state? Is this part of the New Mexico True brand and what that brand embodies? But also making sure that those experiences are really rooted in the localized identity of the areas. Making sure that the people who are offering these experiences, the people who are crafting these experiences, truly have the ability to frame and mandate these experiences so that they're able to offer top-notch opportunities for travelers. Another component of what a New Mexico True experience has, it kind of goes back to that return rate, right? Are these experiences that resonate with the traveler, and do they have the opportunity to increase return rate for the community and for New Mexico as a whole? So really, when you ask what is a New Mexico True experience, it's really taking a look at the data, but also ensuring that that data translates to the tour operator and the guide in a way that resonates and in a way that is very authentic.
Wonderful. Thanks for the clarification. One final question, we'll take it. Can local travel guides be New Mexico True certified?
New Mexico True Certified, again, I'd point anybody toward that eligibility criteria and the application. It is for products 100% made, grown, born, and raised in New Mexico. And there are examples of those on our website. So that would be things like fiber would be an example of something born and raised, or beef as you saw in that advertisement, green chili cheeseburger, pecans, pistachios, those types of chili, obviously raw chili, and then products that are made here, again, native and traditional arts, things that are, people are sourcing raw materials here. In some cases, not every ingredient it can be sourced in New Mexico, so we do not require that it can be sourced in New Mexico, but we do ask for an explanation as to why not. So, for example, New Mexico Pinon coffee is a New Mexico True Certified product because obviously coffee beans are not grown here in the U.S., but they are undergoing significant transformation. And so again, it is focused on products rather than, at this point, not services. I'll leave it at that for now. And if people, again, specific questions, I'm happy to answer.
Okay, thank you. And that wraps up the question portion. So again, if you have questions, reach out to Susie and Andrea, and or go to the website. Their website is fantastic and has a lot of information and key dates. And really quickly wanted to go through some of the upcoming dates that pertain to the finance team here at the Economic Development Department. If you are in the Gallup Northwest region, we're having our Rural Efficient Business Program workshop coming up, and that's March 19th. This is a workshop that we are working with MNRD, Energy, Minerals, Natural Resources, with an engineer from their department, and helping businesses to reduce their energy consumption and save money and explore renewable energy systems like solar, and how do you finance that. There's a great program through USDA that we can help you with. But that's coming up March 19th, and I just want to point out too, especially if you are a tourism-related industry or you have a business in a tourist area, even if you don't, this program can assist you. We can do free energy assessments in your business, so that engineer and one of our partners from NMSU can go to the place of business and do a customized report for free and show you where you're losing energy, where you can save energy. Really valuable tool, and that's for free. Again, just contact us and we'll get you connected. And our Fund It meeting is coming up March 26th. Deadline for applications is March 8th. And we usually have a speaker, and the speaker will be a legislative analyst that will be talking about the legislation that will affect rural development, economic development, and infrastructure. And that'll be in Albuquerque. You can register online. And our next webinar series will be, we're really excited about it, Carmen Morin from DFA will be talking about the ICIP process. So this pertains to a lot of economic development, infrastructure, community development projects, and she'll be talking about that, explaining and walking through that process and what makes a good application. That'll be really insightful, but that'll be March 28th, same time, and you can register at that link. And I also want to point out that our credit enhancement program, that is a program where we can help businesses that are trying to get business loans that have a shortfall in collateral. We can purchase a CD to cover that gap. And that's a very helpful tool for businesses, any type of industry, rural, urban. And so all this pertains to tourist related industries and products. So feel free to reach out to us if you have a business in your area or a lender that would like to find out more information. And then I want to throw it back to Susie and Andrea. Do you want to just recap some important dates that are coming up for your programs to remind people?
Yeah, so Susie with the Rural Pathway Project and Tourism Development, there aren't any dates. Thanks for the opportunity, Joanna, to clarify. The Rural Pathway Project is an ongoing grant opportunity. It's open year-round, so anybody that has an idea of what they want to do can apply it at any time. So, yeah.
And this is Andrea. For the Cooperative Marketing and Advertising Grant Program, there will be a mandatory webinar at 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. on Tuesday, April 9th. Anybody is willing or is welcome, but an eligible entity planning to apply must have a representative on the call. Eligible entities include municipalities, counties, tribal governments, and federal nonprofit organizations. So that again is April 9th at 10 a.m. and the grant application cycle will open at 1 p.m. that day and close on Monday, May 6th. For New Mexico True Certified, that is a totally free program. Sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier probably. And so it's not a grant. There's really no money on either side. There's just a lot of marketing firepower and value that goes along with it. Again, partner eligibility, benefits, all the information and the application, which is always open, are on our website, newmexico.org/industry.
Okay, wonderful. And as mentioned, this presentation will get emailed to all the registrants, so all the information that Andrea and Susie listed and talked about is available. And I do want to point out, this is the New Mexico Economic Development Department regional representative map. So wherever you're located in the state, we do have representatives representing our department in your area and can travel and meet with you, and they can connect you to Department of Tourism. They're the front lines of our department and our work, so feel free to reach out to them. And as well, in our department, we do work with Main Street. Main Street is in our department, and they're a fantastic organization that really works hard alongside the tourism department and is aligning a lot of its efforts with community development and all the work that tourism department is doing to bring people to their regions and participate in the economy and buy products made in New Mexico. So here's our contact for the finance team. You can go to our website or the department's website as well, and there's a lot of information on that. But I want to extend a really big thank you to Susie and Andrea and all the fantastic work that they're doing. Really phenomenal, and like Andrea mentioned, there's a lot of firepower with their brand and all the work that they're doing. So please reach out to them and see how they can help. But thank you both, and we'll look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, and thanks to all that attended. And we'll see you around. All right, thank you all.
Bye.
Bye.